Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some strategies for breaking contact. Um, One thing to consider, Dr. Taylor likes this 1557 burr. It's a good thickness and a good efficient cutter, so it works pretty well. We want to watch the angle here. If you come through straight, it's going to be a lot easier to hit here unless you get really thick, which we don't want. So we want to mirror that adjacent proximal surface. And you don't have to do this in one pass, and you don't have to get all the way from the occlusal to the gingival at once either. And remember, this whole buckle, we're going to be prepping this later, so this isn't precious. So I want to come through here, so I'm going to kind of get it at the angle I want, and I'm going to start lightly prepping this. And to give myself a little room to work with, I'm going to reduce that buckle a little bit. That gives me an easier path to see and to go in there. And then I can kind of work from this top here. I don't need to go all the way to the gingival all at once. But you see, by reducing this buckle a little bit, I gave myself a path without the tooth pushing me into the adjacent tooth. So here's kind of how I would do it with a 1557. Want to leave myself plenty of room to make a margin later. I don't want to take this super far down. So, and then I would just kind of keep working through like this. I almost go from the occlusal first, and I'm leaving that thin little sliver, and I'm staying at that angle so I can kind of creep under that proximal. And if you find this burr a little thick, let's switch to that 012. Similar principle. This burr is a little skinny and presents its own challenges, but we can do a lot of similar things. I'm going to keep that at that same angle. So I'm not actually prepping my margin with this guy. I'm kind of exiting 1.5 to 2 millimeters supragingival here. But this is allowing me to, again, I'm going to kind of work the occlusal and then pass under that contact. And I'm leaving myself plenty of room later to make my margin. You can see that's how we've got that thin little shell to make it easier. I'm going to do a similar thing on the distal real quick with a 016 burr. No, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so this is that 016. It's a pretty thick diamond. So this guy is going to be a little tricky, but I'm going to use the same strategy. I'm going to watch that angle there. And I'm going to reduce the buckle a little bit to give myself a path to entry. And I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom of my margin. I think this is a little thick, so I think you're better off with the with the 1557 or an 012. Because this, if you don't get it perfect right off the get-go, you're not going to have a lot of extra room to go in there and retry. You're probably going to end up a little thick. You can see I'm kind of leaving that thin little wall, and I'm just kind of watching my angle and working sometimes from the occlusal down to make it a little easier. But that's how I'm passing through without hitting the adjacent tooth. And then passing it through there. So those are some strategies on breaking contact.